The Falls Creek Trail, located north of Carson, Washington, is one of the perennial favorite rides of the Southwest Washington and Northwest Oregon mountain biking community. The elevation and mileage vary dramatically depending on how you choose to ride it. First, you can ride it as an out and back, which nets you about as much climbing as you want before you turn around, but is generally about 3,300 feet to the horse camp, which is technically the top of the Falls Creek Trail. There is the 25.6 mile, 3,300 foot elevation gain option if you like significant road climbs. Then there's the 1,200 foot elevation gain 20 mile option if you want to shuttle it from Old Man Pass. But there's also a lesser known, much better shuttling option if you want to add another 1,000 feet of descent while only adding another 20 minutes to the shuttle. This option adds nothing to the climb, but increases your descending to over 4,000 feet. Totally worth it. Get to Falls Creek by following Google Maps to the Falls Creek Falls Trailhead. It's fairly straightforward. Just be aware that when you turn onto National Forest Road 3062, there are a lot of side spurs that seek to lead you away from the trailhead. Just remember that you want to stay to the left. Also, the road is significantly potholed where it flattens out, so drive carefully and slowly. Bikers also often shuttle from the intersection of Wind River Highway and 3062 because that's where they shuttle from before the trailhead opens in April, and they're nothing if not creatures of habit, so they just keep parking there and shuttling from there instead of parking at the trailhead and shuttling from the trailhead. Those bikers will need to make their way from the trailhead back to that road intersection, so be aware of them and try not to run over them on the road into the trailhead. The parking area is rather large and can accommodate a lot of vehicles. Make sure you have a Northwest Forest Pass and display it prominently on your windshield. If you wish to climb the entire trail with your pedal power, I recommend just riding it as an out and back. There will be a significant section where you'll have to push the bike up a steep side hill, but it gets you out of climbing the road. Really consider riding this as an out and back. It's a totally different ride as an out and back. Everyone's afraid of that steep hike-a-bike section, and so they don't want to do this, but seriously, once you're past that section, Falls Creek is an almost deceptively gradual climb. You'll forget how much elevation you're gaining. Also, you'll see the forest in a whole different way if you ride this as an out and back. This forest is gnarly, especially on the lower sections that you usually just zoom through if you're only seeing them when you're going downhill. If you like road climbs, proceed from the parking area out to the Wind River Highway and enjoy your climb. You'll eventually end up at Old Man Pass Snow Park after around 9 miles of climbing. From here, cross the road and ride down this ski trail to McClellan Meadows Snow Park. Turn right on this road and proceed another mile or so to the McClellan Meadows Trailhead. It's the same exact directions if you only want to shuttle to Old Man Pass. Now, if you don't want to ride Falls Creek as an out and back but want to shuttle it the correct way, then whether you're a peddler or a shuttler, you're not done climbing when you get to Old Man Pass. From Old Man Pass, drive another 3.6 miles up the main road until you get to the turnoff for Forest Service Road 6507. It's also the turnoff for Rush Snow Park. After 0.7 miles, you'll come to an intersection. Turn right at this intersection. After another 0.9 miles, there'll be another intersection. Turn left here and drive a little farther to this intersection where you'll take a right. Then drive a bit farther to this intersection where you'll stay to the left. Drive another 2.2 miles to this stop sign and turn right. It's really obvious at every one of these intersections which way the main road goes, so stay on the most heavily traveled and maintained road and you should be fine. After the stop sign, the trailhead will be on your right after another 1/10 of a mile. This is the top of the Terminator Trail. Seriously, this is the awesomest name ever for a trail. The GPS coordinates for the Terminator Trailhead are also going to be in the video description. Google Maps does give accurate directions to this trailhead using GPS coordinates as long as you use the route that follows Wind River Highway, not the route that uses National Forest Service Road 65. This trail needs some love, but more than love, it needs riders. Lots of them. It needs wheels on it. You'll be doing the world a lot of good by riding this trail. So not only are you adding an extra 1,000 feet to your descent, you're doing this for a good cause. Now, doesn't that feel nice? The top of the Terminator Trail usually has someone camping at it if you're here on a weekend. It's a little tough to find the trail at first, so follow what you see on this video. This is mostly a ski trail after all, but we're going to turn it into a bike trail by riding it. You'll climb over some smaller down trees up here at the top before you can finally get some momentum going. It's bumpy and slow going at first, but eventually the trail does start traveling down the hill with a bit more urgency. That happens right about the time when the trail gets out of this little meadow and into the trees. At this point, route finding should be a lot easier. Before you get into the trees, just try to stay to the left side of the meadow. It also gets kind of dangerous. There are lots of rocks and little obstacles hiding out under the bare grass. That's one of the reasons this trail needs you to ride it. Anyhow, keep your eyes peeled and your pedals up. The best feature of this section of trail is its rustic surface. It's all matted pine needles and twigs. It's biker heaven. It descends consistently with barely a pedal stroke required while it twists and turns through the trees. It doesn't just straight shot it, and because it's not built expressly as a bike trail, it has a certain challenge to the flow that adds some spice to the descent. It's just so rare to get pure natural flow like this, the kind that can only happen from a trail evolving over time on just the right grade. And this trail has had those two things, the right amount of time and the right grade. So love this and appreciate it because it's a precious little jewel, one that needs the polish of your bike wheels on it. Near the bottom, the Terminator trail starts to get a little bit more brushed in with some downed trees, so it also needs you to bring your machete and chainsaw. But it's a small price to pay for the awesome extra 1,000 feet of descent you just added to an already amazing ride for just a little bit of extra driving. When you get to the road at the bottom, turn left. The road ends with the McClellan Meadows trailhead in about 1/10 of a mile. The bottom of McClellan Meadows is where the climbing starts. You'll climb about 650 feet over 3 miles. There will be a couple of mildly amusing downhill sections to creek crossings mixed into the climb, but for the most part, it's just an uphill grind. After 3 miles, McClellan Meadows meets with the National Forest Road 65. Turn right on the road and coast down the hill about 1,200 feet, and when you see the outhouse, turn right again into the Falls Creek Horse Camp. This is where the top of the actual Falls Creek Trail number 152 starts. Trail 152 starts with about a half mile of reasonably fun downhill. It crosses a couple of creeks at the beginning, at least one of them has a decent skinny across it. It twists and turns through mid-elevation forest before there's a little climb for a 1/4 mile, and then it's another fun section of downhill. Some of the most fun sections of downhill are in this little 2.7 mile section of trail from the Horse Camp to Forest Service Road 67. But it's not one sustained downhill. This was not primarily built as a bike trail after all, but it's worth the little climbs because some of the step downs and rock gardens are absolutely primo. Toward the end of this section, close to 6701, the trail turns into a rotten old double track. It's okay, it's still the trail, you're still on the trail, so don't panic. You're still on the trail here, okay? There are these cool lava caves near here. The caves are the reason for the double track, as sometimes people like to drive as far as they can up here and camp near the caves for some reason. They're not like the ape caves. You can't really go too far in. They're more like just collapsed lava tubes, but you can sort of explore around and see where they surface. Mostly they're just giant frightening pits in the ground, but if you're intrepid, you can climb down into some of them. They make for kind of an interesting exploration in microclimates. They're also a reminder that the Cascades are volcanic. It's like Hawaii. Only not an island, much colder, and no currently erupting volcanoes. So it's actually not like Hawaii at all. It is volcanic though. In fact, if you pay close attention, you'll realize this entire section of trail passes through an old lava flow. That's why there's all that lava rock poking up above the tread and catching your pedals. After the lava caves, the trail spits you out on this road intersection. The trail meets back up with the road right at the apex of this curve. It basically goes straight across. Just do what the people in the video do. That's why I'm showing you a video. Some of these trail intersections can be confusing, and this is one of them. After about a mile of mostly downhill with 250 feet of elevation loss, you'll end up riding through this twisty-turny stuff before this intersection with a bunch of roads. Once again, do what the people in the video do. As you can see on this overhead view from Google Earth, what you want to do is cross the main road diagonally. This is the beginning of a new section of trail that just recently got finished by a partnership between locals and the local trail stewardship organizations. This is the culmination of years of partnership between the Forest Service and local stakeholders, and a lot of public resources and an amazing amount of private money, time, and planning went into flagging this and making this possible. What you get out of this is an amazing section of trail that replaces an incredibly boring and confusing section of road conversion with a mild 250-foot climb over 1.3 miles, an awesome new lunch spot right in an exposure, giving you a view of Mount Hood, the best 1.5 miles of downhill on the whole trail, including a view of Mount St. Helens. Before, there were no views on this trail. Now there are 2. So, you'll climb about 250 feet over 1.5 miles on this beautiful brand new trail before you get here, the new lunch spot. Hang out, have lunch, and enjoy the furniture. From here, it's a perfect, flowy, mountain biker designed and built section of downhill for a glorious and too short 1.5 miles. I mean, seriously, this section is awesome. It's just perfect, and you can ride it faster and faster every time as long as you watch out for hikers. It's one of the sections the builders had the most fun building, and it shows. There's a short but punchy climb out of here over 1,500 linear feet of trail until you get to this intersection where you're going to go down the hill. If you love twisty, old school, fast single track with root waterfalls, exposed rocks, and little protrusions here and there to keep you vigilant, then you'll love the next half mile of trail. After putting a big grin on your face, the trail will flatten out before dumping onto this exposed rock ledge next to a marsh. The next 1.3 miles of trail is pretty flat and featureless, just sort of a rooty ride through the forest, really. It kind of actually drags on a little bit until you get here to this little downhill leading to the old lunch spot. Back before that new section of trail got built with that great view of Hood, this was the de facto lunch spot, even though it is a little far along in the ride to really function that way. This is still a pretty good place to stop for a while and appreciate the creek, and it's only 3.5 miles from the bottom. After the old lunch spot, the fun really starts. There's a little climb out of this campsite, and then things get a little out of control. The Strava segment for this next section of trail is called Watch Out for Hikers. Two phenomena coincide to make this section a bit of a safety concern. First, it's really steep. It's really steep. Remember that it's the reason so many people refuse to ride this as an out and back. Not only is it steep, it's all side hill with a precipitous drop off. There's really nowhere to go if your tires leave the trail. Also, the surface tends to get pretty loose around mid-June or so there's that too. Those are all just pieces of the first phenomenon. The other phenomenon is that this section of trail starts only 4 miles from the trailhead. That puts it within comfortable walking range of casual hikers, and there are a lot of people hiking on this section of trail. That means you're going to see a lot of terrified and angry hikers if you go bombing down this section of trail on your bike, so be careful and courteous here. Maybe consider getting a bell. People tend to respond better if you give them warning. When you get to this intersection, don't go left. That connects to the hiking trail that leads to the waterfall. There are no bikes allowed on that section of trail, and it's no fun to ride a bike on it anyway, so stay to the right. After 2 miles of white-knuckled descent, the trail will start to flatten out a bit, and you'll arrive at this intersection with an old section of trail. You don't want to go there. Turn left, and you'll arrive at this cool bridge crossing the creek. Turn left at the bridge, and it's a gentle climb of about a half mile back to the parking area. The thing about Falls Creek, you now realize, is that you've seen a lot in a short amount of time. I mean, this is an incredibly diverse ride. This trail takes you through a lot of different climate zones and a lot of different kinds of forest over its 20 miles. It feels like you've seen kind of a little bit of everything. This trail also gets just a little bit better every year as just a little bit more work gets done on it. It's always a work in progress. It's a beautiful thing, and the future has a lot in store for this trail system. Just make sure you ride the Terminator from the top if you're going to shuttle it. Put some wheels on it. Now get out there and go ride your bike. Hey folks, thanks for watching. I hope these videos are helpful to you. Now please remember, like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Now once again, get out there and go ride your bike.